We're asked you to find three inequalities, okay, so that we have P inside this region here, okay, that's shaded, right? And it says strictly, doesn't it, contained within the shaded area. So in other words, it can't actually be on the curve, okay, and it can't be on this line, and it can't be on this y-axis here. Okay, it's got to be the shaded part only, okay. But you can see then why we can get three inequalities, because we've got this line here, we've got the curve here, and of course we've got this y-axis part here. So that's where the three inequalities are going to come from. Now if you take the curve, right, the value of the curve is this here, 6 plus 4x minus x squared. That's the value of it, yeah, of the curve. Now for our point P, we've got to ask ourselves, do we want our point P to be on the curve? In other words, do we want it to equal this? All right. Do we want it to be above the curve? In other words, do we want it to be greater than this, or do we want it to be underneath the curve? In other words, we want the value to be less than this. And in this case, of course, because we want it to be underneath the curve, we're going to want our y value to be less than this. Does that make sense? When it's equal to it, when y is equal to this, we're actually a point on the curve, yeah? But if y is less than this, we're underneath the curve, okay? So that's sort of the inequality we're going to be looking at, okay? So for our point P, okay, which is AB, we can substitute in then our value for x and y. So y will be B, and x will be A. So that inequality, okay, will satisfy then the condition that we need, that we're going to be underneath this curve. Okay, so that's one inequality. We need to now look at the line, right? So with the line, the value of the line is x plus 2. And you've got to ask yourself then, do I want my y to equal x plus 2? So do I want to say y equals x plus 2? Well, we don't want to be on the line, don't we? Do we want to be underneath it? And of course we don't want to be. We want to be above it. So in other words, we want our y to be greater than x plus 2. So therefore, for our general point P, A, B, okay, we're going to have B then for y. We want that to be greater than the x plus 2. So our x value is A. So we want our inequality to be like that. So we've got two inequalities so far. Our third inequality then is this line here. Now remember, that's the y-axis, okay, but also the y-axis can be thought of as x equals 0, yeah? That's the equation we have for the y-axis, because every point on that y-axis, x is 0. Now, do we want our x value to equal 0? In other words, do we want to be on that line? Well, of course we don't. We want to be to the right of the line. In other words, we want our x value to be greater than 0, okay? So we want this condition here. And then for our point AB, of course, in this case then x is A, and that's it. So we want our A to be greater than 0. So those are our three inequalities. We want A to be greater than 0. Okay, so in other words, we want our x value to be greater than 0. We want B to be greater than A plus 2, but we also want B to be less than 6 plus 4A minus A squared. If A and B satisfy all those three inequalities, it will be inside that shaded area.